All right, so Apple just dropped the iPhone 17 Pro, and wow, they're making some seriously bold claims. They're not just calling it a new phone, they're saying it completely redefines what a Pro device even is. So the big question is, is this just clever marketing, or did they actually pull off something revolutionary? Let's dig in and find out.
So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at what Apple even means by this new definition of Pro. Then, we'll dive into the physical design, what they're calling the unibody revolution. After that, it's all about what's under the hood, the power and battery life. And of course, we have to talk about that cinematic camera. Finally, we'll try to answer that big question. Is this thing truly the ultimate Pro device?
Okay, so first up, a new definition of Pro. Look, Apple's argument is that the Pro label has just become a lazy way to say more specs. So they're saying instead of just another small update, they had to go all the way back to square one to completely rethink what a professional-grade phone should be.
And this quote right here, this is basically their whole mantra for this phone. To redefine Pro, we had to start again. They want us to believe this isn't just some marketing line, but the actual guiding principle behind every single decision they made, from the metal it's made of to the chip that powers it. So how does that whole starting from scratch idea actually show up in the phone you hold in your hand? Well, it all begins with the unibody revolution. They're basically saying they didn't just tweak the design, they changed the entire way it's built, right from its core structure. And this is a first for them, an aluminum unibody. Now, what does that actually mean? It means the entire outer shell of the phone is carved out of one single solid block of aluminum. Think about that. There's no separate frame glued to a back piece. It's all one seamless thing. It sounds simple, but engineering-wise, that is a huge, huge deal. And making it happen is, well, it's a seriously complex dance. The aluminum gets extruded, then heated up, then forged into its basic shape. After that, it's precision machined over and over to get that perfect finish. And only then is it anodized to get its color and durability. Yeah, this is not your typical assembly line stuff.
Okay, so why go through all that trouble? Well, it's because you get four huge payoffs. It makes the phone feel lighter, but at the same time, way more rigid and durable. It also turns the entire body into a giant heat sink, which, as we'll see, is absolutely crucial. And it lets them integrate the antennas perfectly for better signal. And they didn't stop there with the durability. You know that super tough ceramic shield material on the screen? Well, for the very first time, it's on the back of the phone too. And speaking of the screen, they claimed the front display is now 3 times more scratch resistant. I mean, for anyone who's ever found those annoying little micro scratches from just having keys in your pocket, this is a massive real-world upgrade. Okay, so we've established the outside is basically a fortress. But let's move on to the engine inside. Power and endurance. Because a Pro phone needs a Pro-level engine, right?
At the very heart of this thing is the most powerful chip they've ever put in an iPhone. And they're being super clear about this. This chip was built from the ground up to handle the massive demands of Apple Intelligence, all their new AI features. So this isn't just about being faster, it's about being smarter, right on the device. But here's the age-old problem, the one that gets every high-performance device. All that incredible power, it generates a ton of heat. So how in the world do you stop a device this thin from throttling or, just melting when you're doing something intense like gaming or editing 4K video? The answer is actually pretty cool, literally. It's a new vapor chamber cooling system. It basically works by cycling a tiny bit of deionized water. It evaporates, pulling heat directly off the chip, and then condenses on the other side, spreading all that heat across the entire aluminum unibody we just talked about. The phone's whole frame becomes the radiator. It's brilliant. And when you combine that powerful chip with all that efficiency, you get this massive claim. The biggest battery and the longest battery life ever in any iPhone. I mean, for a Pro user who needs their phone to last all day, no matter what, this might be the single most important feature. Now, let's talk about what might just be the biggest leap forward of all, the cinematic camera. Apple is not just saying this is a better camera. No. They are positioning this phone as a legitimate tool for making movies, like Hollywood-level stuff. And it all starts with the hardware. The new telephoto sensor is a whopping 56% larger. And as any photographer will tell you, a bigger sensor means more light, which directly means you get sharper, cleaner pictures, especially when the lights get low. And this just shows you how serious they are about consistency.
All three of the rear lenses, the wide, the ultra-wide, and that new telephoto, are now 48 megapixels. There's no weak link. That means you're getting stunning detail no matter which focal length you're shooting at.
And for all you filmmakers out there, the list of Pro features is just dense. It records in ProRes RAW, giving you total control in post-production. It's got an 8x optical quality zoom, so you can get right in there without losing quality. And hey, even the front camera gets a major upgrade with a higher res sensor and a wider center stage to keep more people in the shot.
But this is the one that makes the pros' ears perk up. Gen Lock. This is a super high-end feature you usually only find on dedicated cinema cameras that cost a fortune. It lets you perfectly synchronize the timing of multiple iPhones. This makes multi-camera shoots and complex visual effects that were frankly impossible on a phone before a reality now. So let's bring this all back home. We've looked at the design, we've looked at the power, we've looked at the camera, and that just leads us to that final big question. Is this thing actually the ultimate pro device?
Apple really frames their whole argument around this Pro Trinity: their fastest chip ever, their longest battery life ever, and their most cinematic camera ever. And you know what? When you look at those three things sitting there together, it's a pretty powerful argument. And that kind of leaves us with this one last thought to chew on. When you have a phone with professional features like ProRes RAW and actual multicam Gen Lock, has the very definition of a professional tool shifted? Is the smartphone, and specifically this smartphone, on its way to becoming the ultimate, most accessible filmmaking tool in the world? That's the really big question Apple is asking all the creators out there.